allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Kathleen, can we do roll call, please?
Phillips.
Here.
McCampbell.
Here.
Murray. Here. Rinker.
Here.
Wilson. Here.
Okay. This is time set to make nominations for the office of mayor for a new two-year term pursuant to the city charter.
Your Honor, I nominate Shane McCampbell. for mayor.
Second. Any other nominations?
And did you seconded that?
Yes, I did.
Are there any other nominations? Going once. Are there any other nominations for the second time? Any other nominations for the third time? Okay. Since there are no other nominations, can I get a motion?
Your Honor, I have a motion that the nominations for mayor be closed.
Can I get a second?
Second.
It's been moved in second. Were there any?
We're going to vote on that motion.
Okay,
to close.
okay, thank you.
Phillips.
Aye.
McCampbell.
Aye.
Murray.
Aye.
Rinker.
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Okay, were there any statements that needed to be made by any council members?
Well, I'll just say this, I mean, it's obvious that it's unanimous, I would say, just because of the nominations. You've done a great job as mayor. You've set a standard that people are going to have to work to achieve from this way forward. So very proud of the effort that you've given as mayor for our city.
I'd like to second that. I think you've done a great job of really raising the bar in our community as to what the mayor does. Traditionally, the mayor has just been somebody who helps lead these meetings and is the figurehead for our community, but you've gone above and beyond that. You're out in the community all the time. You go to any event around here where there are different things going on, whether it's for charity or for the city or representation for the chamber or the police department or any other municipality or thing going on with the municipality. Shane's always there. He's a great voice. I say he's the number one cheerleader for our town, and that's why I think it's probably best that you fill those shoes. So.
All right, that's enough nice stuff about me, or I'll get sick. So we're just going to shut that down. But I do appreciate that people recognize my attempt to try to do a decent job. So, and if you guys want me to continue this out for my last 2 years, I'm honored to do so. So, at this time, Kathleen, since there's no other nominations, can we just?
We'll just.
Your Honor, I have a motion to approve the mayor for a 2-year term.
I'll get a second.
Second.
Moved in second. Kathleen, let's take it to vote.
Phillips.
Aye.
McCampbell.
Aye.
Murray. Aye. Rinker.
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Okay,
Congrats.
thank you. I say, don't you start now.
Get sworn in, everybody.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your full name.
I, Shane A. McCampbell,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
and that I will faithfully and impartially,
and that I will faithfully and impartially,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
discharge all the duties of
discharge all the duties of
the office of mayor
the office of mayor
in and for the city of Burlington, Iowa,
in and for the city of Burlington, Iowa,
as now and hereafter
and now and hereafter
required by law.
required by law.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's been so great working with you guys. That's why they all know it. They've never worked with me, so. Okay, we've got one more spot that we need to fill. And this is time set to make nominations for the office of Mayor Pro Tem for a new 2-year term pursuant to the city charter. Do I have any nominations for Mayor Pro Tem?
Your Honor, I have a nomination, Annette Wilson for mayor pro tem.
Second.
Are there any other nominations for Mayor Pro Tem?
Your Honor, I would like to make a motion for John.
Okay, who seconded?
I did.
Okay.
I'll second John.
Okay, I'm so used to, I almost wrote in your name as Jim Davidson.
That works.
And, Your Honor, I'd also like to nominate Matt Rinker for Mayor Pro Tem.
Second.
You can only
Okay, wait a
nominate-
minute, yeah,
I can only nominate one?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Okay, and John Billups, you were seconded by,
Matt.
You can second as many as you want, you can only
Right.
nominate
Okay,
one.
Right
okay.
on. So, okay, we have two nominations. Do we have another nomination for Mayor Pro Tem? Asking twice, do we have another?
Can you nominate yourself?
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to nominate myself.
Okay,
I'll second.
are there any other nominations? Going once? Any other nominations, second time? Okay,
Your Honor, I have a motion, the nominations for Mayor Pro Tem be closed.
Second.
Kathleen?
Phillips,
Aye.
McCampbell,
Aye.
Murray,
Aye.
Rinker,
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Okay, statements can be made by council members at this time in support of their candidates. And also, those interested can make statements, so. Yeah.
In support of John, I think he'd make a great Mayor Pro Tem. I think, even though we ran together and in campaign and were at the forums together, I kind of see him as a mentor. He's always led the way for me, always been really receptive to answer questions. I see him as a leader, and I think he'd do a great job for Burlington.
Thank you. Well, I would say there is a reason why I wanted to nominate more than one. I think any of the people that's sitting at this table could fill the job. That's why I had nominated Annie and tried to nominate Matt, and I would have nominated Linda if she would have let me. So however this breaks down, I think we're going to be well led. So.
I'd say the same thing. If you look at the table, I'm excited about the new council. So for myself, I mean, I've done a lot of the stuff, been a part of a lot of the stuff that's been taking place. I'm up to speed. So someday I'd like to be able to sit in your chair, Shane. So I think being Mayor Pro Tem would give me a lot of opportunity to kind of get my feet wet with that moving forward after your term's up. So.
No other
And in
comments?
support of Annie, I have been out in the community, various organizations, and she's always been there on the forefront. She's always keeping us abreast of what's going on in Burlington. And I think she's put in the homework, so I think likewise she'd be a great candidate too. We have our work set up for us. Too many good candidates.
Too many good candidates, but there can only be one.
Aye.
Again, before we close down comments, does anybody want to make any comments for themselves on?
Just, looking forward to hopefully being Mayor Pro Tem, but obviously, I think we're all going to work very well together. Have good open dialogue, and so I think no matter what happens, we all have the ability to have that, so.
Yeah, I would say that one of our former councilmen nailed it on his way out the door, and that was Jim Davison when he said, success can be achieved when people don't care who gets the recognition. And I do think that is going to be our goal as a council, and so I'm okay with any one of the nominees getting Mayor Pro Tem. I know we'll be well led, so that's what I'll end on.
No other comments or statements? All right, Kathleen?
Okay, I'm going to pass out ballots. Put your name and who you're voting. Put your name on top and then check mark who you're voting for.
Super secret ballot.
It's not secret because I'll be
I
reading.
know.
balls.
Davison will draft him back.
So bad. Pass it or no?
You waiting on me?
Should I play the music for you?
We do need some music, though.
Okay, Shay McCampbell, Annie Wilson, Matt Rinker, Annie Wilson, John Billups, and Linda Murray Billups. So we'll have to go to round two.
Okay. Can we do comments in between round two, or?
I believe so.
Now's the time to, to really, if you're interested, to really say what's, because I just can't stress this enough. I had somebody say, well, Shane, you do real good as mayor because you go around to the community. Well, it's a whole lot more than that. There's a lot of stuff that it's not just going around the community, and the same thing with the mayor pro tem. Anybody want to make any other comments before we move forward?
Well, I mean, I don't want it to sound like I wouldn't appreciate being the mayor pro tem. I would. I would relish the opportunity to be part of leading our city. By the same token, sitting on the council, I think we can do that just as well. I voted for myself in my stead because everywhere I've gone, I've seen you. And that's what I'm trying to mimic. I'm trying to make sure that I'm out in the community and doing those things that city council and leaders should do when they have time to do so. And so, in that regard, if I was selected, I would promise that effort will not slack off, so.
Yeah, I can tell you, it can be pretty difficult to spread your time from, home life and your daytime occupation, and then also the city. And to me, the city is huge. It's a huge responsibility as far as, whether it's a fun event or whether it's, a sad event. And I know I've unfortunately had to go to sad events on behalf of the city. And so I know it's not always fun and games, and there's a lot of tough decisions you have to make. And I just think that, I would be good at doing that as well. I don't know. That's about all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Ready for second round?
I'm out, right? Isn't that how it works?
Were you gonna make a statement?
No.
Oh, yes, the two. Let me just review real quick, sorry.
That would be just,
The two that tied.
yeah.
I think I read that right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Careful what you wish for, right?
There.
Waiting on me still? It's a wrestler, man. I didn't know I was gonna struggle that much with it.
Okay. Shane McCampbell voted for Wilson. Rinker voted for Billups. Linda Murray voted for Wilson. Annie Wilson voted for Wilson. And Billups voted for Billups.
Congratulations.
Okay, so can I get a, is that you, Linda?
Yeah.
Your Honor, I have a motion to approve the mayor pro term for a 2-year term.
Can I get a
You
second?
want to say her name?
Annie Wilson.
I'm sorry. I think there's a motion in your packet, should have her name.
You have to say
Put
her
her name in there.
The loose sheets.
Just read, no, on the other side, where's your?
Out of order already.
Oh, never out of order.
Get a blue sheet.
Okay,
Yeah,
you
she
didn't
didn't get
get,
blue sheet.
you didn't get one on there, so. There you go. Just motion that the,
I motion that the election of Annie Wilson as the mayor pro tem of the city of Burlington, Iowa for a 2-year term be hereby approved.
Second.
moved in second. Kathleen, let's vote it.
Billups,
Aye.
McCampbell,
Aye.
Murray,
Aye.
Rinker,
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Swear it in.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your full name.
I, Antoinette Wilson,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
and I will faithfully and impartially
discharge all the duties of
discharge all the duties of
the office of Mayor Pro Tem
the office of Mayor Pro Tem
in and for the city of Burlington, Iowa,
in and for the city of Burlington, Iowa,
as now and hereafter
as now and hereafter
required by law.
required by law.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Linda, we're gonna move you, honey.
Oh,
Yeah, we're gonna leave you right there for tonight, but we'll be moving. Congratulations. But we'll find a nice home for you. You don't have to shake my hand, it's her. She's the one.
Thought I got moved because I messed it up.
No, you didn't mess up. You're staying right there. All right, listen,
You won. One screw.
we're gonna move downhill tonight now that we've got this squared away. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. All matters listed under item 1 consent agenda having been discussed are considered to be routine by the city council, will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If a discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. On the consent tonight, we have the usual, finances miscellaneous, minutes of previous meetings, payroll and city claims, beer, liquor, wine, and cigarettes, reports and bonds. We have 5 resolutions. The first is a resolution approving final acceptance, final payment, and release of retention monies for the 2017 depot storm sewer improvements. The second is a resolution approving final acceptance, final payment, and release of retention monies for the 2017 Jefferson Street parking improvements. The third is a resolution reappointing city officers of the city of Burlington, city clerk, and city treasurer. The fourth is a resolution approving agreement with the Quad City Helicopter Emergency Medical Service doing business as MedForce for critical care ground transportation services. And number 5 is a resolution approving a federal aid agreement for a surface transportation program project between Iowa Department of Transportation and the city of Burlington. And we also have some public hearings set for January 15th. The first is a consideration of sale of property locally known as 848 South Garfield Avenue, city of Burlington, Iowa, with conditions. The second is a consideration of sale of property locally known as 424 North 3rd Street, city of Burlington, Iowa, with conditions. And then the third is consideration of plans and specs for the 2017 Law Enforcement Center site work improvements. Is there anybody from the audience that would like to have any of these items removed? Yes. I see none. All right, thank you, Leon. Council,
none. I motion to approve all items listed under item 1 consent agenda.
Second.
moved in second. Thank you, Mr. Billups. Kathleen, can we vote?
Billups,
Aye.
McCampbell,
Aye.
Murray,
Aye.
Rinker,
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Okay, this is time for consideration of plans and specs for the Mount Pleasant Street Bridge project. Mr. Mack.
Switch over It would be kicking it over. I just came up here to introduce, we have Larry Sanderhaus here with Stanley Consultants, who is the engineer who worked on the design of the project. So he'll be able to take over the rest of it.
Good evening. Got a handout here, and it should be on the, it should also be on the overhead. I'm Larry Sandhaus. I'm a structural engineer with Stanley. I work out of the Muscatine office, and I came before your council about a year ago when you hired Stanley to do a design to replace the Mount Pleasant Street Bridge. And I figured I was asked by city staff to give you a little background on the project and tell you how it's advanced to the present day. So the bridge is estimated to be around $4.5 million construction. That budget was set several years ago, and we've tried to give you a very pragmatic and practical bridge that would meet the construction budget. This involves approximately $4 million in local money and another $1 million in state money. That construction cost plus the design cost. We're on a Iowa DOT letting for around April of 2018. And the construction is anticipated to take about a year and be finished sometime in late spring or early summer 2019. So next page, please. The existing bridge was built in the early 1940s as the old U.S. highway. It will be closed for construction and it will be demolished. The bridges are rated on a scale of 0 to 100, and if it's brand new on dedication day, it's 100. And if it doesn't exist anymore, it's a 0. So this bridge is less than 10, and it's currently load rated. Normal truck rating is 80,000 pounds, and this 40 tons, and this bridge is rated for 22 tons. So it's primarily residential traffic. There's around 4,500 cars per day. Relatively small percentage of truck traffic. Most of the truck traffic goes on the state highway. So that picture in the upper right-hand corner is of a residential style floor jack. It's holding up one of the corners of the bridge. There's 4 corners of the bridge that have got some deterioration due to basically it's waters coming through the bridge joints. It's got a lot of severe rust. The deck is full of salt. So that's why the bridge has also got a lot of lead paint on it, and that would that's a significant factor in the cost of demolition and replacement of the bridge.
Is there, go ahead.
Okay. The new bridge is the existing bridge is a 4-span steel bridge, and the new bridge would be a 4-span, 500-foot long precast concrete bridge. Next slide, please. The bridge will be closed during construction. Alternate routes are on local streets, including Lucas Avenue, and for truck traffic along US 34. Next slide, please. The project requires coordination with BNSF Railroad, and we've been working closely with city staff since that opening day. There's around 40 trains a day that come through there, BNSF Freight plus Amtrak. The new bridge has a 10-foot tall fence over the tracks and piers that are outside of railroad property. So the design was completed to avoid disruption of railroad operations. Next slide, please. The new bridge will have 2 12-foot traffic lanes in the middle. It'll have 2 5-foot bicycle lanes on the outside and 1 5-foot sidewalk on the south side. The purpose of this, we've actually narrowed the bridge. Okay, the existing bridge has 4 10.5-foot lanes and 2 5-foot sidewalks. And that was designed when it was, when lanes were narrower and there was more traffic on the bridge before the new state highway. So it's primarily residential. So you've got, as part of a kind of a complete streets or project, there's an accommodation for the bicycle lanes on the outside and an accommodation for pedestrian traffic along the south side. Next slide, please. One of the design features is that we would like to not put any water on the railroad or on the city streets below, so we're piping water into storm sewers and the Hawkeye sewer there, and we're dropping water down the piers and trying to keep the water off of city property, off of Osborne Street below, and to keep it off the railroad. So, next slide, please. The new bridge is going to have a chain link fence that's vinyl coated over the railroad. There's also going to be, on the next slide, a vertical picket style fence. It's a requirement for safety over the railroad that the chain link fence, 2-inch square mesh, be 10-foot tall. It's to prevent things from being thrown onto the tracks. Next slide, please. And on the rest of the span, it's going to be a 5-foot tall vertical picket fence. That was, we received from guidance from council during a previous meeting that you wanted to add some aesthetic elements to the bridge. So, anyway, that's kind of an overview of the project. I'll take any questions you folks may have at this time.
Let me start with the audience. Are there any questions in the audience? Yeah, Mr. Shane.
Leon Shahan, 1821 Mount Pleasant Street. What's the cost sharing on this again, between the state, feds, and local?
It was,
$1 million through the DOT, that would be federal funds. The rest is us.
And you'll have to bond for that?
Yes, we'll bond. We'll be paying for that with TIF financing.
Oh, well. Another question on that. What's the difference between using precast concrete and steel as far as longevity?
The precast is, we did a study. I mean, the steel, precast is of the kind that's used on the state highway on US 34. I think that there's similar longevity, but steel costs more. The precast is made here in Iowa. The main advantage of this modern bridge is that it doesn't have any joints on it. The existing bridge on the downhill side, on the east side, if you notice, if you drive onto Osborne Street, there's a lot of water coming down the joint from above, and it's carrying sand and sediment out from underneath the slope wall and the stairs. So a jointless bridge would be common to both steel and concrete, but the concrete bridge was the less expensive of the two.
I just noticing on Highway 34, there seems to be some spalling of the concrete. That's a problem and a hazard to, well, anybody that's under the bridge or on Osborne Street.
That the US highway was put through in the 80s, is that correct?
70s, I think.
70s.
Okay.
Yeah, mid-70s.
Okay, so that's getting on 35 years now? So there probably have been some deck replace. One thing that has changed in bridge design since that time period is they use epoxy-coated reinforcing in the bridge deck.
Okay.
And that was a real, they started doing that in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. They went to jointless bridges, which eliminated the water problem at the end of the bridge, and they went to epoxy-coated reinforcing in the deck. And that is, the epoxy-coated reinforcing in the deck is the main reason that you see the spalling from the underside of the deck. And those two things together have given bridges in Iowa an extra 20 years design life. I mean, that's why you're seeing replacement work being necessary in the bridges that were constructed in the 70s. They're getting 50, 60 years anticipated life out of modern bridges with epoxy rebar and no joint.
Thank you.
I have a question. On the chain link versus the iron picket, whatever we want to call that, is there a huge cost difference there? As far as which is cheaper, is a chain link 10-foot be cheaper versus a picket? Because although aesthetically it may be pleasing, I'm looking at the diagram and I'm thinking as a kid that once got into trouble a lot as a youth, that's not going to deter me from trying to hit a train with a snowball, to be honest with you.
The chain link fence?
Yeah, the chain link fence
The
over the
chain link
tracks.
fence is it's a railroad requirement.
I know, so what my question is it cheaper to do the chain link fence all the way across versus the picket?
Yes, it would be, but we got some guidance from council and from city staff that there was kind of a desire. I think the mayor said, Burlington is better than chain link fence.
You got a
What's
good memory, my
quoting?
friend.
I wasn't
gonna get you in
here, so
trouble,
that's why
man.
I was asking.
What's the price difference?
The
Best
price
guess,
difference it's probably $50,000.
Okay, so.
Rough order of
You
magnitude.
take that number into consideration
Over the
when you're
years,
gonna
yeah.
switch it out, it's not a significant
Yeah,
amount.
the
considering
chain link
the price of
fence
the project.
would be, the premium chain link fence would be vinyl coated. I designed the vertical picket railing to be powder coated
Okay.
and kind of easily maintained in like 8-foot sections so that, you know, potentially if it gets hit or damaged or vandalized, you can lift out pieces and replace it.
So, my question is, are there any other cheaper designs that we should be looking at in order to be able to reduce our costs? Or is this about as good as it's gonna get, given the size of it and,
We're at 100%, well, 95% design here. So
Okay.
Okay.
to be able to read it, you're saying the bridge or you're talking the fence?
the bridge?
The bridge, I would say we're past that point for
Okay.
trying to do that. I mean,
All right.
we've already headed down that path, having them hired last year. So I would not recommend verging off into some of that redesign
I
conversation.
think I could speak to the general, the most cost-effective way to meet the budget is to build the least bridge that you need. In other words, you've got the existing bridge is 4 lanes plus 2 5-foot sidewalks, so it's about 57 feet wide. The new bridge is about 43 feet wide. And we went to bat for the city, and city staff supported the effort to put the sidewalk on the one side. We looked at it as a safety effort to try and promote the pedestrian traffic on the side that had the most pedestrian traffic, towards the south side. And we also, to be fairly honest with you, looked at it as a cost management technique. In other words, the difference between a 43-foot wide bridge and a 57-foot wide bridge is quite a bit of money. And that was also played a part in deciding to use the concrete pre-stressed as opposed to the steel.
On the chain link fence, John, we saw pictures of that they showed us of other communities that had used that, and it looked like a
Well,
prison.
yeah.
And, you know, when they had it going, you know, and that's kind of why we
Sure.
stepped back away from that, going with that full-on look, just so that, you know.
Yeah, and I see that, and I know that's a regulation by BNSF. My only question was, how much cost difference was it? But when you take it out over the period of years, I guess I'm okay with it. I just don't know really what kind of a deterrent it is. So,
What
but
we did,
that's for
what
BNSF.
we did to kind of make the BNSF requires the chain link fence with the 2-inch mesh over their property. And we went over the entire span too. So their right of way is like 70 feet wide, and the entire span too is like 135 feet. Thought it looked a little bit better to put it over the entire span rather than just part of the bridge, part of it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You guys good?
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you. We
Thank you.
appreciate you coming, Larry.
I guess the only other thing I'd mention, as we went through the design process, there were several different options that were looked at for how could you look to shorten the length of the bridge by changing the two ends? Could it be done in a way that was cost-effective or not? You looked at different options for types of materials within the bridge itself from a cost perspective, and the option that got presented to you was the one that came across as the most efficient use of funds.
It's a very conventional bridge, and I guess that's the best, that was my guidance from city staff and from council, is we'd like to have a cost-effective way to get across Railroad and Osborne Street.
Right on, right on. You got that
On
right.
a budget that was set some time ago.
Okay,
I motion to close.
second?
Second.
Thank you, sir. Kathleen?
Phillips,
Aye.
McCampbell,
Aye.
Murray,
Aye.
Rinker,
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye. Your Honor, I have a resolution approving plans and specifications for the Mount Pleasant Street Bridge project.
Second.
Thank you, sir. Let's vote. Kathleen?
Phillips,
Aye.
McCampbell,
Aye.
Murray,
Aye.
Rinker,
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Excellent. Okay, we've got an ordinance left.
Your Honor, I have in front of you the final adoption of an ordinance providing for the division of taxes levied on taxable property in the West Avenue Mason Road urban renewal area pursuant to section 403.19 of the Iowa Code of Iowa.
Second.
Mr. Tisland?
No changes from the previous two readings. This again is setting up a TIF district for the use of TIF funds in this Outlot 3 of Swisher subdivision, the planned Park West subdivision. This is part of the urban renewal area plan that was previously approved by the city council for the larger area. This was one lot within that larger area and would be the only lot currently being approved for TIF funds for the development proposed by Mr. Cahill. Again, this is the second step in the process. Final step is a development agreement that would have to have a set date for hearing and consideration by council for approval as well.
Any questions or concerns from the audience? Huh? You were jumpy, you were froggy. Yeah.
Leon Shahan, 1821 Mount Pleasant Street. I think the best way to handle my objection to this involves Matt Rinker, actually.
Oh, boy.
You sell live home and car insurance,
I do.
and I assume you either own or rent the building that you have there on South Main Street.
That's correct.
I have an invoice from Connection Insurance. They're building a new facility in what I refer to as Randyland Mall, what you refer to as Manor Mall. With all the money that the city has spent and potential abatements, your competitor is going to be getting $2 million to compete with you. You should find that galling, and I find it galling, that I'm subsidizing new houses for doctors and whoever on our wages. And actually, it's not wages anymore. My wife's drawing Social Security. We get about $1,200 a month. I find that galling too. The whole idea of favoring one property over another, you all, when you're sworn in, say you're gonna uphold the Constitution. 14th Amendment is equal treatment. It's not equal treatment to untax new construction and force the cost of maintaining city services on residential property owners like me who've owned our houses for decades.
Thank you, Mr. Shahan. Yes, sir.
Dan Cahill, 1414 Hillary, Burlington. I thought I might, if possible, Mayor, just give a few comments about this because, you know, this has been going on for some time. And I think there's a lot of misinformation out there, especially the comments of Leon. He's been here at every meeting and says that this property is going to, this project is going to increase his property taxes. Well, the truth is, Leon, this has no way that this can increase your property taxes. No way. This is a $500,000 gamble my wife and I and family are going to do, hopefully to benefit the city of Burlington a great deal. Anybody that buys a lot and builds a house in this subdivision will pay the cost of improvements. There's no way that anybody else in the city can pay any of this cost of improvement. So I've tried to give everybody a heads up as we rolled along on this thing, and I provided everybody with a 10 or a 12-point summary. I'll just mention some of those things again, because we do have some new council people. And of course, people watch this on television, and they get a lot of information from your meetings. And that's why I would like to just repeat it very quickly, Mayor. You can gavel me down whenever you want to. Okay. I know you're in a hurry to get to your election night party. Okay.
Don't start.
This project is 16 lots. Eric has the plan. It's going to provide for 16 new building lots, some of which may be condo lots. So you may have a condominium on some of them. So you might have 20 properties. The total cost of this project is $500,000. That's somewhat of a gamble in this day and age, because I can tell you Burlington's real estate market right now is very, very soft. Very soft. A lot of great deals out there if you're going to buy some houses. This project, there it is, complies with the 1999 City Development Plan, which was a surprise to me. I wanted to run a street in there and put a cul-de-sac. And I was encouraged by Eric and his staff to not do a cul-de-sac, but let's plan for a roadway that will run all the way through this land, and maybe Eric could pull up the larger plot there. And it's just a perfect place for another street. And that's what the Burlington proposed planning people that in 1999 said that street should go from West Avenue to Mason Road. And it is now possible. It's never been possible. This land has been in a trust since 1947. And that's why you have houses on this side of it, you have houses on that side of it. It's very rare to have a 20-acre plus parcel right in the middle of the city. This is incredible that the city has this and has this opportunity, to be very frank. I look for building projects all the time. I drive around town on the weekends looking for places that you could build a couple of houses. But to find 20 or 25 acres altogether in the right spot is amazing. Eric convinced me of that. And this street straight through it's somewhat more expensive than the cul-de-sac that I had on my early plans. But you can see on the left how that can tie into Dill Street. This particular plan can tie into Dill Street. And up above, going right, you eventually will tie into Gilbert Street. And a little lower on the plan, there's a little jagged street. That goes into Sunrise West. They really need an exit street over there. They got one street in, one street out. And most of the people use the church property to get in and out of there, and the church has all those signs up, says private property and all that. But in any event, back to my 12 points. This street that I will be putting in is about 850 feet. It'll help solve the current traffic overload on Willow. See, people get from the new school, Stone Middle School, they go off to the left there, you'll see Willow goes over to West Avenue. Well, go out there at 3:30 some afternoon, and you'll see what I mean about a traffic jam. You can hardly get across West Avenue. Now, the total cost of this project is $500,000. It's $150,000 roughly to buy the land, a little more than that probably, but $350,000 for the street, sewer, water, engineering, underground electric. So it's a $500,000 project. And this is a substantial real estate boon for the city of Burlington. The city right now receives $129.46 per year. Now that's per year on this property. When it's completed, City County Assessor Matt Warren estimates that the city will receive $46,574 in taxes. That's 39.4% of the estimated taxes that this will produce, which is $118,000 a year. The city gets 39% of that. I mean, that's quite a deal for the city. Okay, number 7, I mentioned that, we're asking if this property be established as a workforce housing project also, which is really important. What does that mean? Well, the state of Iowa has a great plan to try to get builders to build houses that working people can afford, not $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 houses. You see ads for those all the time. Actually, I've got prices on all the lots for sale in Des Moines County. There's lots that they want $100,000 for. I intend to sell these lots for $35,000, if possible. Now, jobs, it costs a lot of money to build 20 dwellings. There's a lot of jobs there. Not just a lot of taxes to the city, but 16 homes, estimated $175,000 cost, that's $2,800,000 just in materials and building expenses. But this workforce housing idea that the state has it doesn't do anything for me. It's tax benefits to the contractors. Now, there's other benefits to me, Mayor, but a builder now in Iowa, now this isn't a Burlington law or anything, this is a state law. They can, if they'll agree to build 4 houses in 3 years, they can get 10% back on all of the material that they put into those houses, 10%. Well, that's quite a bit of money. In addition, they get 6%, they get their sales taxes back. Now, that goes to the builder, that doesn't go to Dan Cahill. Or my son Bradley, that's why I got Bradley there. I should have introduced him earlier, that's Brad.
Brought him also with him.
And my daughter-in-law to be Leah there. Anyway, that's something that goes to the builders. I don't intend to build houses there necessarily. I may have to do 1 or 2 to get it started, and I'm happy to do that as soon as the weather breaks. Okay. My corporation, Park West LLC, shoulders all of the financial burdens of this project, every penny. Leon doesn't put in a cent. I put in $500,000 to make this thing go, and I get some benefits out of it. But no other current taxpayer in the city of Burlington will pay higher taxes because of this development. It just isn't possible under Iowa law. But I've heard that in the last 3 meetings I've been to. Residential development in.
I don't want to rush you, Dan. You know I love you, man.
I'm about finished.
Okay.
Residential development in Burlington is very important. I mean, even though the housing market is weak, as the Chamber of Commerce says, and I sent a note to everybody, or a copy of their statement, that we need more inexpensive type houses. Now, we have more subdivision lots available for sale in the county and the small towns around here than we have in Burlington. Not right, that's not right. Burlington is a wonderful city and it provides a lot of things for people to do and see, but it just is easy to go out and build it in Danville or West Burlington, and I just think that's a shame, and I think that's something that should be noted, that Burlington should have the housing, Burlington should be getting the taxes. And let's see, one of the other things, is, you know, everybody's down on TIF. They say TIF, nasty, nasty, bad word and all that. But this is the 8th subdivision that I've done in Burlington. I find it that, I really think, I'm proud of that. I drive around town, I look at, oh yeah, there's one of my subdivisions. 8. This is only the 2nd time I've asked for a TIF development project. Some developments, you don't need TIF. Where I live, Park South subdivision out across from the airport, I didn't ask for a TIF there, it's 55 lots. Why? It had roads on 3 sides, it had sewers on 3 sides, it had water in it on 3 sides. And it was a very easy piece of land to develop. And, but I'm really proud of this. Now, here's one of the things I'm gonna hit. I'm gonna hit it hard after we get this passed, if we get it passed. Military home ownership. There are not a lot of people in Burlington, and I've talked to realtors who are unaware of this program. This is what's called Home Base Iowa. Iowa again, here comes the state again. They want to encourage veterans to live in our towns and move to Iowa. Well, there's tremendous military home assistance program, $5,000 if you're a veteran, towards your down payment. $5,000, that's pretty good. And then the Iowa Finance Authority's got another $2,000 to add to that if you're a veteran serving, within the last 10 years or so. Men or women can apply for that. Nobody does. Nobody knows about the darn thing. So anyway, I'm pretty high on the program, and I hope we get a yes vote, because I'd be extremely disappointed if I didn't. And I won't, except for this vote, I will not do it. I just, you can't afford to put in infrastructure without this type of assistance. You see, the city owns the street, sewer, and water. Now, this is a change in history. People aren't aware of history sometimes, but Burlington is laid out in a grid system, isn't it? It's beautiful. North Third, North Fourth, North Fifth, and all of these streets from the river to Central Avenue, from North Street to South Street, was how Burlington was laid out by the U.S. government in like 1840 or something. Burlington's a very rare town, laid out in a grid system. And in the early days, Burlington survived. They didn't have TIF. What the city did was they wanted streets on North, Second, Third, Fourth, Fifth, etc. The city paved them. They go get a bond, raise money, pave the streets, and pay it out of local taxes. This idea of developers doing the streets is a fairly recent phenomenon. I'm thinking from the 40s maybe on. Burlington was never like this, and most cities in Iowa weren't. Developers never paid for streets or sewers or water. The streets did it. The water company put in your water line. In fact, the early subdivisions I did, the water company always put in the water lines.
They're partying without me, Dan. They're partying without me, man.
Anyway, thank you for listening, and welcome all the new council members. It's going to be very exciting for you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Council?
Time for comments. I mean, I'm simply going to say that I understand Leon's concerns. There are a lot of people in the community that share the same opinion. But at the end of the day, as a community, we have to start to create an environment where people can come in and invest in our community. And this is one of the tools that's available for us to be able to do that. So that's why I'm in favor of the project.
Any other comments?
One of the arguments that I've heard in the community is that, well, this is going to happen with or without our support. And you just heard Dan say, no, I can't fiscally afford this without this support, and this is the way infrastructure is kind of created now. So I think we need to support this and welcome everything that he's done for our city. And welcome Leon. I always am glad to see you put in your civic duty and wish more people would follow suit.
Here, here. Well said.
And just real quick, I know, and I mentioned it last week, as we move forward, one of the things I'd like to see us achieve this year is to get pen to paper and put a better policy in place so that people like Mr. Cahill, when they want to invest in Burlington, they have the ability to read black and white in front of them what's available from an incentive standpoint, instead of us essentially individually picking people who have the opportunity to do this and who don't. And once again, I would welcome, Mr. Leon, if you want to contribute to those discussions in order to be able to have an idea how that policy will work and what's in it, then I would highly encourage you.
Any other comments? Okay, my only comment is, this has nothing to do with Dan Cahill. Somebody says, hey, do you got a beef with Dan Cahill? Absolutely not. I love Dan Cahill. I just have to go against this because it's not Dan Cahill's development that I'm looking at. I'm looking at the whole thing, and it's a philosophy thing. It's a philosophy deal. I'm not saying I'm right and that you're wrong. I'm just saying philosophically, we're on two different pages moving forward, so that's where I'm at. But just for the record, I want this documented. Hawkeye, I love Dan Cahill, especially his wife. She's beautiful. Kathleen, let's take this to vote.
Phillips,
Aye.
McCampbell,
No?
Murray. Aye. Rinker,
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Okay. Now, this concludes the meeting tonight. Now we'll entertain comments from the audience. If there's something we have not covered, we will welcome you. Yes, sir, we'll have you come first.
And we got some stuff to hand out. Public Works Director, right? Correct. Press. And for the city council here, 2 and 3, 4, 5, and a single sheet just for the city clerk.
She likes to have her single sheet. It means a lot to her.
You want to take one and pass it, please? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
sometimes it's better just to put things in writing. Did I get enough for you all? Oh, city manager, too. Sorry. I'm Christopher Repke. I live at 1306 Madison Avenue. I've been living there since April of 1994, so it's been a while. I'm just going to read what I have here. Dear honorable members of the Burlington City Council, city manager, city staff, local press. My requests and comments concern Madison Avenue paving and bike lanes. I'm asking the city council at the next city council meeting withdraw the grant request for Madison Avenue. The reasons follow. A misunderstanding of information presented. In a video of the city council meeting of December 18, 2017, discussion was held concerning Madison Avenue. From watching the video, there was confusion on the options presented to the council, in my opinion. The speed and timing of the vote. When I heard on the radio and saw in the news that at a work session there was a discussion on the Madison Avenue project, I did not realize the vote would be happening next city council meeting, nor was that conveyed to me by a city staff member with whom I met. The speed of this vote has not allowed the property owners of Madison Avenue to be properly notified for comment and input. The effect on property value. Removing, and already heard that the housing market's already soft in Burlington. Removing parking from Madison Avenue, according to the retired realtor who sold me my house, would make my home less desirable. This means to get interest in my house, I would have to lower the price. Decreasing property value is an issue in the city of Burlington, Iowa. Decreasing property value is an issue in the city of Burlington, Iowa. And then I goofed up here. Goal setting report dated June 2nd, 2016, page 9, under Budget and Finance. Other housing issues can be found on page 10 under Housing and Community Development. Removing parking from Madison Avenue will hurt home values. For the months of November, December, January, February, and March, Madison Avenue will receive no bike traffic. Safety. Even with bike lanes, the street would still be dangerous for children. They do not have the motor skill for riding among 3,000-pound vehicles. It would be safer to designate South 10th Street as a bike route. Parking could remain on South 10th with the speed and amount of traffic is much lower than Madison Avenue. No connection to businesses that would allow people to commute on a large scale to work. How many bikes per day would use the bike lanes? Would it be more per day than those who use Madison Avenue to park? Have any studies been done to verify the number of bike riders who use or will use Madison Avenue to bike? The difficulty it will bring to the residents of living on Madison Avenue. As an example, I've handed out with the letter Christmas cards. This is a side note. They were probably 90% off. Probably before I was married in 96, but even after then she goes, why did you buy them? Well, they were 90% off. So anyways, I ask that the honorable city council members, relevant city staff, city manager, local press deliver the card to my front door. Please leave between my screen door and front door. If I'm home, I'll invite you in for a cup of coffee. Please remember, you cannot use my driveway or my neighbors to park. Pretend it's filled with Christmas gifts. Also, you cannot park on Madison Avenue. Please find a place to park and consider there'll be other neighbors seeking parking in the same area and deliver the card. And consider also other...
That was nice, my friend. That was a nice move. Just throwing that out.
Okay. Also consider if you go down Madison, look across the street at the housing across from where I live. Look down, look across from the gas station. There's some houses there. You'll see even more what I'm talking about. These are a few of the arguments against removing parking from Madison Avenue. Please do not devalue and destabilize the older neighborhoods for the sake of what is perceived as newer and better. If you devalue the older neighborhoods, no amount of newer or better will save Burlington from a Detroit-like fate. I know that's a big statement to make, but that's what Detroit did. They forgot their neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just so you know, I'm keeping this card. I'll come visit you for coffee, but I'm keeping this. You gave it to me, so. Okay. Yes, sir.
Hello, I'm Paul Carl. I live at 1304 Madison Avenue. I agree with many of the points that Mr. Repke made there. I did want to reiterate a little bit on a couple of his points. I know that in the December 18th meeting, it was discussed or kind of put in place to make a bicycle route on Madison Avenue as kind of an incentive to get this package to go through. Looking at the information that was put in place, It appears that the traffic counts are extremely heavy on Madison Avenue, so I'm wondering why we would want to put a bicycle route on an extremely heavy traffic road when there's umpteen other roads leading in the same direction that are not so busy. Currently, we have bike routes on Main Street, I believe. We have one on Summer Street. We have one on Central Avenue, and they all go down to the park as well. So I don't know why we would want to push a bicycle route on a heavily congested road. That just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Currently, Louisa Street, right next door to my property, is a bicycle route. And each year I see maybe 20 people that travel that route. So very few people actually use those routes, even though they are designated for such purpose. I noticed that in the application that I got a copy of, they're pushing for the complete reconstruction of the road north of South Street all the way to Angular as far as new concrete and so forth, and just new asphalt from South Street out to Sunset. And so that'd just be a repaving. I was wondering if it was ever discussed or considered removing the resurfacing portion of the project to just pave it with that, with city money, so we could keep parking. And then the other portion is currently parking on both sides. But if we limited that to parking on one side, if that would meet the requirements that they're trying to pursue. And that way we could continue having parking on the entire street. Other than that, I don't really have anything more than what Mr. Rupke had stated. But again, I would just like it to be either rescinded or amended in some fashion from what it currently is.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Would it be okay to answer his question?
Actually, no. Jim, you want to?
Actually, Nick, you could come forward and just kind of just do a review of what the project is. You had a grant application that was due by the end of,
It's already submitted to South Ohio Regional Plan.
and it was due by the end of December?
December 31st. It's
I
been
mean-
submitted.
No, I understand, but more
And-
specifically, he had a question just as to why we chose the
Well,
bike
he can
path.
talk about what,
There's several different things that were brought
Yeah.
up. As far as reconstruction versus repaving, essentially what we did for that and why we called that out was for the estimates. If we get into it and realize that we need to do more base work, I mean, that's what we'll do. Essentially, the reason why we called that out is to explain our cost estimate, to explain how we got to the dollar figures that we got to. As far as the bike lane goes, the reason why we chose this road as an opportunity for a bike lane is because of the width restrictions from south to Sunset. It is only 30-foot wide due to SUDAS standards that would not meet the vertical clearance issues if you were to have 3 lanes, which include the 2 lanes of travel and the parking. So it would have been our recommendation moving forward under those standards to remove the parking regardless. The bike lanes do not have the same vertical clearance issues, and so they are a kind of a filler of a voided space that would have been previously occupied by the parking. And also, the bike lanes also account for points in the application process.
you also have a requirement from a public works perspective. The council passed a complete streets policy a couple of years ago that encouraged any project that came up to go through a process of looking at, is this a spot where using a complete street
Yeah,
approach
the complete
would make
streets
sense or not?
policy, it doesn't necessarily point out and call out specifically bike lanes, but it talks about improving the transportation flow of all kinds, whether that's pedestrian, bike, or automobile. And with those same width restrictions, we would have looked at the safety concern caused by the smaller lanes of travel. I think Jesse had presented some of the accident reports on that street. There was 60-some, a lot of those were probably garnered at the intersections, but we had 6 in the last 5 years of either head-on collision, side-swiping a car, or hitting any of the vertical clearance issues off the side of the curb. So those are the types of things that we would look at as also with complete streets is safety concerns.
Thank you, sir.
Question, Thank you.
Well, actually, we can't, this isn't, yeah, just so that people know, when something's not on the agenda, we're not allowed to have just open discussions on that. That would be new information. So people are welcome to bring information here. We would encourage you to do that. And as you can see already, you're seeing who some of the players already get information, so you're welcome to stick around also after the meeting. Is there anybody here that has not yet had an opportunity to speak? Mr. Sterling?
Good evening. Freddie Sterling, 517 South 7th Street, Burlington, Iowa. And I usually come every year. It's about that time for the Dr. King celebration. We'll be at the Burlington Memorial Auditorium on the 15th of January, 5 o'clock. I just brought a few letters. And Mayor, you mind if I present you one?
Please do.
All right, thank you. I'm cutting time short because I understand you have a date or something.
Well, hopefully it's not the same place you're at. I don't like for people to be prettier than me in the same building.
Okay, there. And,
I heard that. I didn't hear what it was, but whatever it was no good. I want to state
I
that.
believe we have
If you wanted to wear his
I believe we have a blessed speaker coming from Macomb, Byron Odom. I believe we'll be blessed, inspired, a lot of good information, things that I pray and hope that will continue to bring us together. We'll continue to remember and hold fast to Dr. King's dream. Also, there will be music, there will be a light meal. We also encourage those to bring a covered dish, and we'll have a fellowship afterwards. And there also will be a free will offering. I want to say this, the city council have been very supportive, Human Rights Commission, and we're just very grateful. This will be our 30th year. So I think we have.
What year is this?
30th. This has been our 30th year we have been in the city of Burlington, and we're asking you, Mayor, to cancel the meeting and come in on the 15th. But anyway, we're asking you to give our welcome, and of course, we have our finance always and be a blessing to us. We also have our chief. He's always a blessing to us, and we'll be hearing from all of our dignitaries possibly on that night. So we thank you for your support.
Thank you for coming down. Happy New Year to you. And, yeah, just to throw that out there, we do have, Chief is usually always at everything, and James comes to a few things, so we're all pretty happy about that. Nobody caught that. All right, it's time to go. Mr. Tislin, I'm sorry, was there anybody else that had any comments? Okay. Mr. Tislin?
I didn't have anything. There's a glove found on first floor if it's anyone's glove before the meeting.
Hearing back?
Mr. Tislin has somebody's glove, so make sure you grab it after the meeting. Kathleen? We're glad to have you back again.
Thank you.
Antoinette, Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, thank you. Just wanted to, thank you for the support and, stay warm, everyone. It's really cold outside. It's dangerous.
Cold.
I don't think I have anything else, though.
Okay. John Billups.
I would just like to thank the heroes of the snow removal. When I was snug in my bed, those plows are going through and our roads are clear, and they always do a great job. It just, they don't get enough credit, especially this time of year. So great job to the city staff for the snow removal and being on top of it.
What that guy said. Linda Murray?
I don't have anything this evening, but I will sell you my peanut butter popcorn recipe for $5. I'm just kidding. That's a side joke.
We'll talk about that later, my friend. You good?
I'm good.
Okay. Matt Ranker, Counselor.
I have nothing. I just reiterate what John said. I did get an email from former Councilman Tim Scott, and he forwarded me something from someone in the community, basically saying that they were thrilled with the fact that the city plows did such a great job. I sent that off to Nick. I think Jimmy got the same thing. So everybody stay warm.
Amen to that.
That's it.
Jimmy?
I know that Nick will be on the radio tomorrow. at 9, and he'll talk about snow removal then, about 4 weeks too late. But
Yeah, I was supposed to do it in December, but then I had a flood wall meeting. So the reason why I handed these out is every year we put this out in the Hawkeye, and then we also have a copy of it on our website, explaining kind of the method to the mayhem of snow removal, talking about the emergency routes that we have. I also will be on the radio tomorrow talking about it. One thing with the cold to be aware of, we've had some issues with some traffic signals because it gets into that sub-zero temperature. Some of the electronics don't want to work very well. So there's been some traffic lights going into faults, and they've been going on red flash. So please be considerate, or not, that's not the right word, but.
That's not the right word, Nick.
No, it
Aware.
isn't. Aware. Thank you.
Okay.
the MLK celebration, we've had people who participated pretty much every year, but we always run into this. That's the same night as a council meeting, 5:30. So people tend to attend at the before and as they can afterwards. Radio. So as you think about the beginning of the new year, new council, you're all going to have to decide who's going to be on the radio the second Wednesday of the month at 9. So for next week, be thinking who's going to be wanting to step forward and be involved with that, and as that goes on, just be cognizant that's one of your roles. We'll have back on for this next agenda work session assignments for committee. Well, a lot of them are now set with the mayor and mayor pro tem, but for the rest of you, where you fit in with those other committees, be thinking about what you want to be willing to take on as we get into next week, and look to fill those out. And just with budget meeting schedules, we'll begin with a little bit of talk on budgets this next week. What you'll get presented, just so you know, we've done a little bit of reductions before we present it to you. Within our general fund, I asked for, didn't have to use all 100,000 of cuts that they submitted to me, but I used a portion of those to get to a balanced budget. Within our CIP items, we've reduced about $1 million out of the 5-year CIP from what we would have done in last year's CIP. And that's just really a reflection of reduced local option sales tax and reduced hotel motel money. So we've already asked them to make several significant reductions in the projects that they have. That doesn't mean that you won't want to have some other alterations as we go through the process, but that's already, they've already had to go through that process of taking out things that last year were on the board to be considered to be done. Your meeting schedules, we're going to be meeting all our Mondays again. The extra Monday we'll use, the free Monday. And then we'll be using pretty much every Thursday as well after this week. Those Thursday ones are all at 3:30, and the free Monday, I can't remember if that was at 3:30 or not. But you did have it on your schedule last week with what was provided. Just make sure that you are ready to, as you can, to meet those timing. We'll have a lot of time invested into the budget. We try to keep it to about 2 hours a night.
Right on.
We may go a tad long depending on who's talking. I'm not the one who talks longest, am I?
That's
Maybe
usually
I am.
Beard that goes over time, so.
But no, we try to keep it down to about 2 hours, just because it's hard to pay attention to a given topic much longer than that. So that's all I had.
Okay, the only thing I wanted to just remind everybody, again, this is budget time, so as we go into to that part, I'm sure that everybody's going to be in all of your ears, but the bottom line is we don't work for one person, we work for the city, so looking forward to this. Again, Happy New Year, everybody, and just remind everybody to be safe. It's really cold out there, so if there's nothing else, can I get a motion?
Motion.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All right, so moved in second. Kathleen, let's vote ourselves out.
Phillips.
Aye.
McCampbell.
Aye.
Murray.
Aye.
Rinker.
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
All right, this meeting is adjourned. Good night, everybody. Thank you. What'd he say?
Force the park.
Yeah.